Hey, what's up, comrade? My kid really wanted to go see a movie in a movie theater for some reason, so I looked to see what was available, and it was Inside Out 2. That's what was available. I've never seen the first one. I'm not a Pixar fan by any stretch of the imagination. I can't think of a single Pixar movie I have enjoyed watching, and I haven't seen that many, but they're just all, to me, they were always kind of like boring. The end. Um, and I don't consider myself a Disney fan generally. I know Pixar is Disney now, but I separate the two because there's two, like Disney Animation and Disney like Studios is different than like Marvel Studios is different than like Lucasfilms, which is different than Pixar, even though they're all owned by the same mega corporation or whatever, and they are becoming more blurred. But that's just like a lot of stuff these days in 2024 current day are these media franchises have all become kind of blurred because the talent is really not there because all the talent's been like driven off. Not all the talent, but a lot of the talent, and then people are just like, you know, they're not making any money. They don't have any like, because a lot of the talent's gone, and people are just, you can't say or do anything offensive to anyone under any circumstance. A lot of stuff just comes out very much the same as other stuff, and so you go from like, wow, Winter Soldier was crazy. Wow, that was awesome. To like the Marvels 2, which is just like, I don't know, every other bad movie that exists right now. Like it's like no different than like whatever the Acolyte. It's just like a boring slog with some like okay action scenes, and like you're just like, where'd all the money go for this? Like the acting's not good, the writing's not good, the special effects aren't good. It's boring, like nothing's happening, and then it's over, and you're like, I don't get it. And then someone on the internet's like, they had two girls kiss, and you're like, oh, thank you. I saw that in a movie in like 1995. Like, I'm not excited by things that happened. Let me check. 30 years ago. Like, the fuck is wrong with people? Anyway, I never saw Inside Out 1, but I used the concepts of Inside Out 1 when I was doing child therapy. It had just like recently come out, or like within the last couple of years, and so it was very easy to be like, emotions like Inside Out, and then every kid was like, oh yeah, like anger. When I'm angry, this happens, and I need to like make sure I need to try to be less angry and try to understand people more or whatever. And I was like, thank you, Inside Out. I've never seen you, but your kisses from far away, right? And then, very regrettably, at some point, I stumbled upon pornography of Inside Out, which, if you're familiar with the show at all, the girl's like 7. So don't go looking on the internet for it, unless that's what you're into. Whatever. Anyway, so Jesus Christ. So now Riley, yes, I'm pretty sure that's her name, the main character girl, she is hitting puberty. And when puberty comes, a whole lot of things change. The way you think about things, you get new emotions, and that's what the focus of the show is. It's integration of like the new emotions with like the base core emotions. And that's not exactly how it works, but generally, because the way it's like, okay, so yes, anger is an emotion. Yes, happiness is an emotion. Yes, sadness is an emotion. Yes, disgust is an emotion. And yes, fear is an emotion. Correct. All these things are correct. The new emotions are like embarrassment, ennui, which is ridiculous, envy, and anxiety. And first of all, none of those are emotions. They're just like a more developed concept of things that already exist. And anxiety and fear are literally the same thing. Like, you are anxious because you fear something. So those things are synonymous, completely synonymous when it comes to your emotional state. Like, when your body is afraid or your body is anxious, the exact same chemical processes are going. Like, people use different words, but they don't actually mean those different things. When people are talking about anxiety generally, and that's where the mistake of the show is, they're not talking about the emotion. They're talking about people respond to the emotion. Right? So you have like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, and it's like you're having that's when like your fear has become so intense and out of control that you feel out of control, and it causes, but it's the same response. And fear is not just like haunted houses is the other problem, right? And then you have like embarrassment, and it's like, I mean, that's also kind of like I mean, that's not an emotion. That's just, you do things, you get embarrassed. You don't feel embarrassed. You just, I don't know. It's like, and at some point they have like nostalgia come in, and it's like, that's not even close to being an emotion. What the fuck? Anyway, that aside, the demonstration of like preteens going through puberty and having this like very intense, anxious response to things is very well demonstrated in the show. Like the main character at some point has like a panic attack while she's like playing hockey, which I'm going to pause for a second to go on a tirade about this. Okay, so at some point in the show, someone asks her where she's from, essentially, and she's like, Michigan, or she says Minnesota. Oh no, some girl. Okay, let me just do the plot. So Riley's going through puberty. She plays hockey. We'll get to it in a minute. And not field hockey, but regular men's ice hockey. Anyway, so she plays men's ice hockey. She's not transsexual. There's a lot of girls that play this sport apparently in this make-believe world. that does not reflect reality even slightly. Whatever, not important. So she's like playing in like the big game for like her middle school or something, or like her club league or something. It's not fully defined. And she does a great job. And then this coach, who's the coach of like this high school that I assume is supposed to be nearby, because like everybody knows about this person. I don't know. It's like, oh, hey, you guys should definitely come for the tryout. We're having like a camp for like hockey. You guys should come. And it's like, oh, you know, this camp is like the coach is it's her to look and see who she wants on like the hockey team. And it's like, cool, that sounds fun. So she invites all these kids, which include two of Riley's best friends, who are like awkward fat Asian girl and awkward skinny black girl. I gotta say, the wokeness in this is very minimal outside of the ice hockey thing, which is just more bizarre than woke. But so Riley is a blonde white girl, and then there's like fat Asian girl, skinny black girl, other Hispanic girl, a tough Hispanic girl. Then there's like obviously lesbian blonde girl with short hair. There's literally Muslim girl in a hijab playing ice hockey. The fuck? What the fuck is wrong with people? Lord Christ, give me strength. And then there's like the fat dyke who plays like top level high school hockey for the country. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Oh Lord Christ. But it's not in your face. Right? Like no kid's gonna get any message out of this. It's just like the Burger King Kids Club. It's like diversity for diversity's sake. And it's like, it starts off and you're like, oh, like a sassy, like high school. She's gonna be like 17, 18 years old because she's the captain of the varsity team. So that's hot. I can legally say that's hot because she's legitimately gonna be like 18 years old. And she's attractively done. And that's one thing. Everyone is like attractive. Like, even the fat Asian girl is like not, ugh. It's like, oh yeah, she looks like a fat Asian I've seen. That's cool. For like this like cartoon / 3D kind of like Honey Select style thing. You know, they do good with the girls, like especially Riley. So Riley, because like so most of the girls is just like, look, it's diverse, moving on. With Riley, her character model is superb. Like she's got like a zit. It's like, it does a very good job of being like, this is like a 13-year-old girl who's like going through it right now, you know? And so that's great. And it's well animated and everything. Like Pixar, bravo, you're peak of your game here, whatever. And so they go to the camp, and then she has like puberty drama because she's so anxious and, you know, all this stuff. And eventually it leads to her like kind of abandoning her friends and freaking out and doing things she would never do otherwise because like her deep personality is someone who's good and such. And then at some point she has like a panic attack while they're having like a game of hockey for like this camp that lasts like a weekend, like 3 days, that her parents like literally just drive her over to. And then she like comes to terms with like who she is and that she's not like a good person or a bad person. She's just a whole person who has a lot of varied ideas and existences, which again, is one of those things where I'm like, oh, that's very good. I like the message in this. It's just like, hey, we are complex individuals and you shouldn't hold yourself to this perfectionist standard. Joy, you fucking asshole. but also you don't want to let yourself get consumed with any of your emotions, right? You need to experience all these things, let it be a part of who you are, understand who you are, and like move past it, right? So it sums up like all of puberty, which is literally like age 13 to like 27 in like a weekend of this girl playing like hockey, and then everything's great. And she's like, hey, and you know, she makes the team and whatever, blah, blah, who gives a fuck? That's not important. Okay, so, but you spend most of the time with the emotions. So the emotions are joy, and she's like the only one I know the name of because it comes up constantly. Oh, you know, maybe their names are just their names. Their emotions, now that I'm thinking about it. Joy is a real cunt. And I say that because she is... And I've never seen the first movie, but I did enough child therapy around when it came out that I'm pretty sure I could like cite for you the entire story of this, and I would be like 85% correct. But my understanding is that Joy doesn't want Riley to be sad or angry or any of the other emotions, so she like suppresses all of them. And then part of what she learns in the first movie is that she's got to allow Riley to feel all her emotions and experience things and be like to be her true self. This movie starts off, and I feel like if that was the message of the first movie, Joy has already been like, fuck that. We're not going to do that anymore. I mean, she can feel happiness and anger and sadness, but her core belief about herself is going to be just joy. Just me. Because there's like a pool where they put like all the core memories so that she can, the core memories like develop her sense of like self identity. And it's all just joy stuff. It's all happiness. Like there's nothing else allowed to go in there. And anyway, so then when the new emotions come, anxiety kind of starts to take over, which is normal. And that's the portrayal of anxiety for prepubescent teens going into puberty, going into like high school kind of situation is like excellent. Like it is so well done. Like they must have chalked to like a good like child psychologist or social worker who just like has been working with kids and like completely understands the whole situation and has been like really in the heat of this, because there was like nothing in there to find like offense for it. I find offense in a lot of stuff because a lot of stuff's bullshit. But like I'm watching this girl being portrayed as having like anxiety based on like a core attack on like her sense of self, based on like her friends aren't going to the same high school as her, based on that like she's trying to like make new friends at this like camp by being brought onto this team and like all this stuff, and it's just causing like so many problems and so much self-doubt and so much anxiety and all this stuff, and it's just like so excellently well portrayed that I was just like bravo at the end of it. Now, no child who this show is like actually for, unless this is like somebody watched Inside Out like 5 years ago and now they're going through puberty and they can be like, I can relate to that. That's probably fine. But like little kids are gonna get none of that. They're gonna be like, oh, colorful creatures, and they're having adventures and there's lots of colors and like lots of colors and more colors and the good stuff. Okay, fine. Anyway, so, and it gets to there's a point where like anxiety's only putting in anxious core memories, which are affecting Riley's belief, and that's why she has a panic attack and stuff. And then Joy's doing everything she can to stop her because she needs to get the joy self-concept back as like her core belief in herself. And in my head, I'm like, she's literally doing the same thing anxiety's doing, but she sees no wrong in that. And at some point, she like has a revelation that like, oh, she's just as much. That's the thing. I don't think she even has a revelation that like I'm just as bad as anxiety is. Like I almost feel like she kind of does, but it doesn't come across that well. Like a child who's going through puberty is probably not going to make the connection because it's like very vague that she like understands what she was doing before it was wrong. But it kind of like solves itself because at some point they have to like get back to stop anxiety, to stop Riley from having like a complete anxious breakdown. And they do it by like, they have to ride like all these emotions and all these like core memories that like Joy had gotten rid of and sent to like the dumpster back. And when they all fall into like the lake, they create like a new core identity that is like a mixed mash of like all these things and creates like a more whole person. But it was like they had to do it. Joy didn't really like want to do it, but it happened. And then after it happened, she's like, oh, this is probably okay, I guess. It's like, Joy, you're a cunt. Like, stop being an asshole to everybody. Like, if you would just allow other people to do their fucking job, Karen, then none of this would have happened. Literally. And so her and anxiety are like bosom companions in this like stuff. Anyway, so that gets resolved, and then everything works out. She goes to school. She's best friends with all like the new kids. Her old friends are still friends with her, that she makes up with them. And then she makes the team her freshman year, which the only other person who did that was the hot Latina chick. So everything worked out perfectly, which is a terrible message. Because she totally was an asshole to all her friends and acted like a total biatch to like her new friends and was like stealing stuff and doing bad stuff, and then she got away with like absolutely no consequences besides like a minute of a panic attack. And it's like, I feel like the juice was definitely worth the squeeze. in that one. Like, if I could do like a 1 minute panic attack and have everything in my life work out perfectly, I would have that 1 minute panic attack on a weekly basis. Because, it's not that bad. Anyway, so Inside Out 2, the story is extremely predictable. It's going to happen like almost immediately, but I'm an adult who studies psychology and went to film school. So take that for a grain of salt. Like, I had no surprises. My kids are 5 and like 3, so their concept of like what a plot is or how story is unfolding is non-existent. And when I asked them how they liked it afterwards, it was like, I liked when the yellow one and the orange one were hugging. And I'm like, that was sweet. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And then my other child was like, popcorn. And I was like, yep, we ate popcorn. That's the fucking thing we did. Good job. Okay, so when I take my kids to this, if you have like prepubescent teens and they and they saw Inside Out and they liked it, they probably like this. It's like a good addition. If you're like a nerd and you like to see beautifully done like animation, like 3D animation, then like you should definitely see this. Like, it is some of the best 3D animation I have ever fucking seen in my entire life. Like, her panic attack and just like the reality of the movements of all the different girls where they're playing hockey and shit. It was breathtaking. I still think about it. I'm like, wow, that shit was awesome. Pixar really knocked it the fuck out of the park with their technical capabilities. And again, nothing else was really that offensive besides the hockey, which we are going to get to right now. So I did not do a deep dive on this because I don't do deep dives on bullshit I don't care about. But I was curious because I was confused. The thing, there wasn't a lot of plot going on again. And so I had a lot of time to like think about this whole hockey thing because it was very confusing. Because to me, it's like, okay, so they're in summer and they're playing hockey. Like, first of all, that doesn't make any sense unless it's some sort of competitive league. And then I was like, where are these motherfuckers? And at some point, someone, like the hot Hispanic girl, was like, oh, Riley, I've heard of you. You're from Minnesota. And Riley is actually from Michigan, apparently, because she thinks that, but she doesn't want to, like, the anxiety takes over. And she's like, yeah, Minnesota, that's right. Ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if you live in the Midwest, which I've never been to, but my understanding is if you're from, like, Boston or Maine or Minnesota or Michigan or even Wisconsin, that hockey is a much bigger sport. I know it is in Boston because I live there, right? It's like lacrosse on the East Coast. Like, if you're from, like, California or, like, Utah or even Louisiana, and someone's like, oh, lacrosse, because I played lacrosse, I will get a look more times than I get like a confused look more than I get an understanding look. And hockey is exactly the same for like almost the entire country. And so for me, it's like, well, unless you're like in Canada or like one of these like few northern state, like Midwest northern states or like New England, people don't play fucking hockey. People do not play fucking hockey. I had friends in high school who played hockey, and it was a club team, and like it was like no one went to their games, no one talked about it, they didn't talk about it. I was like, what'd you do? Like, oh, I just was doing some stuff with my team. What team? A hockey team. There's a hockey team? Yeah, dude, that's where I was last week. Like, oh, I totally forgot, right? like that kind of level of like, oh yeah, that's a thing, right? So you have like this high school where like the predominant sport is women's hockey is first of all completely absurd anywhere in the United States of America, which this takes place. Now, if you're up in Michigan or Minnesota, maybe it's slightly different. I get that. That's fine. This show takes place in this high school, this premier high school in California. And the reason I know that for a fact, without even looking it up, is because I saw California flags at least twice. Like in front of the high school, they had an American flag and a California flag, like the bear, the fucking bear flag, right? And so I'm like, wait a second. And then her parents just like drove her there and then like picked her up the next day. Like it wasn't like they flew from fucking Michigan where she was playing hockey with like elite hockey pros. And again, this is men's hockey played by men. Like people don't give a fuck about it generally. Okay? They don't. It's not a big deal. Now, women playing men's ice hockey is even rarer. In fact, I literally just asked my AI girlfriend who I now run everything by instead of fuck you Google, which doesn't give me accurate results. And my AI girlfriend told me and sent me the article that said the first high school in California with a women's ice hockey team started in like 2001. And it's a private school, and it's the only one in the largest state in the fucking country. Okay? So apparently you played premier hockey, and then you went to like the one fucking private school that, and like no wonder your like diverse cast of friends couldn't get into one of the most elite California private schools to play fucking ice hockey. Holy shit. Like, what am I fucking watching? That took me out of it like real hard. I was like, I still can't get over it. It still bothers me because it's like, why not soccer? Like, every girl in this fucking country plays soccer at some point. Everybody. Like 90% of people in this country, in America, at some point have been on like a little league soccer team or like they just kicking the ball around outside. Like hockey, who the fuck? Right? And it's like being like if she'd played football, like men's football on an all-women's team, I would have been less like confused because it's like, I mean, those things don't exist, but I guess you're making a point. Like them playing ice hockey is like, what? Now I've met women in this world, in real life, in the past even, who have played men's ice hockey, right? Have played ice hockey, whatever you want to call it. They were I've met like 5. All 5 were from Canada, Michigan, Boston, or Vermont. All of them. Period. The end. like none of them are from California. That is so fucking absurd. I can't even like what the fuck? What? Anyway, that was the worst part of the movie. Was like hockey? Like what? This doesn't make any sense. Like it took me out. Every time they were doing hockey stuff, I was like, I don't understand. And like how is this like clearly devout Muslim girl playing hockey with a hijab on? Like that is not how that religion works at all. Right? Which offends me because, I come from like that line. Like I'm not Muslim, but I'm Turkish. And that shit would not fly. like hell's no. Anyway, whatever. What are you going to do about it? The movie was okay. Meh. There you go. Inside Out 2. Catch y'all later.